Welcome to Like, Love, Share by Babelbox, the show where marketers and creators go behind the post to unpack what actually drives attention, trust, and impact on social. We spotlight smart growth hacks, breakout campaigns, and real-world influencer case studies from emerging brands to cultural moments you might have missed. Whether you're building a brand, growing a platform, or shaping what's next in influencer marketing, Like, Love, Share is your source for ideas worth spreading. If you care about reach, relevance, and results, you're in the right place. Let's get into it.
Oh, hi, Erica. As I said to everyone, this is like an amazing opportunity for everyone to listen. So, Erica, please introduce yourself.
Geez. Well, I'm Erika. Thank you for having me. I'm an internet person, so, I'm passionate about the internet. I always say that I come from the internet. I love content. I love the people who make content. I think a lot about monetization and how brands and people can be most sustainable. I helped build a company called Barstool Sports, which is mostly what I'm known for. But I've spent a lot of time at really big companies, very small companies in fashion and music and tech, all these places. So I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. So, you're being really humble because you just launched something very new,
Yes.
and I need to hear all about it because the world needs more.
Yes. So one of the things that I've been seeing, I think I've really enjoyed being on the edge. And I think working in digital is amazing because everything is always constantly on the edge. And I think we are on the edge of a time where community is really going to matter. And we're on the edge of seeing people in real life, being able to connect with people in a way that is parasocial, where you think you know someone and you relate to them and you like them and you connect with other people who follow them. I think this is the future. And so I built a community company. When I was at Barstool Sports, I had created this brand called Work Like a Girl, and I had trademarked it mostly because people thought I was like a misogynist because I worked at Barstool Sports, which made me mad. And Work Like a Girl started as a t-shirt idea, and then I turned it into a community for professional women. So anyone who's looking to connect with other women in marketing, in media, nurses, teachers, tech people, you name it, Work Like a Girl is an incredible platform for that. It's a community that lives on Slack. And
I need to join because I'm not in it, so I need to join.
you can join, and I'll send you the QR code, but you can just join if you go to my bio. I'm at Erika on Instagram, and you can find the link in my profile and you can join. Super easy, it's free. And my whole philosophy around Work Like a Girl is that you kind of like come as you are, bring what you can, and take what you need. Like, so it's not performative, it's not like a big conference. I'm not looking to make money. I really just want to connect women with one another. I think more and more women are working remotely. More and more women are more isolated at work. There are less and less resources for women at work. And so this is a place where you can, in the comfort of strangers, you can ask questions that you would be uncomfortable to ask at work, or you can ask for resources or leads or jobs, or, who's watching Love Island and what do you think about it? So it's kind of a neat little space. And very long-winded. I had made my way to this woman who's a stay-at-home mom who built this company called the Local Moms Network. And she did it between drop-off and pickup, and she built a really, really big business. But she had never thought about shows. She'd never thought about content. She'd never thought about TikTok. She hadn't thought about YouTube. Like, there's all sorts of things that I knew a lot about that we could put on top of the Local Moms Network. And so we put the two brands together. The company's called Mule Media, and essentially we're covering and connecting with communities of women from when you're a senior in high school, or senior in high school, you're going into college, to your kid's a senior in high school, and all the way through all the stages that women have. The communities are local. So in the case of the moms, it's if you look at South Houston or you look at Monmouth, New Jersey, or everyone's very local. And then in the case of Work Like a Girl, that's also local, but it will also be industry specific. So influencers could be a community within Work Like a Girl, or nurses, or women in sports, etc.
And it's all just helping each other.
Just helping each other, creating content for one another, helping one another. I think there's a lot of I spent yesterday at Chief.
I was going to ask you about Chief, and I was but this is free. Chief is not free.
Chief is really expensive. So this is not Chief. So I think there's two things. Like, I really loved being a chief. It was beautiful. It was like fancy. It was super nice. But every woman who was a member, I was like, how do you, there was a time when the economy was a little bit different where companies eagerly paid for women to join networking
So
groups.
I was a founding member of Chief. I was
Oh,
there from
you were?
the beginning.
Oh my
I was
God.
there
Okay.
when all the companies paid, and I was
Yes.
when the companies started saying, "Why are we paying?
Yeah, it's expensive.
It's really expensive." Yeah. And I love
Uh,
it, but it's expensive.
Loved it. I was like, gosh, it's so great to be able to tap into that. But I think there's two things that are a little bit different about what I'm doing, which is one, I don't like it when women have to show up fancy or as like the best polished, like you don't have any
Like
problem.
in my sweatpants most days and a baseball
Yeah,
hat.
same. I'm like, I'm tired. I was on a red eye. Like,
Right.
I'm feeling like shit about this. Like, I have a problem with that. Like, so I wanted to build a space where women could be themselves and be vulnerable. And then the second is I don't think companies are paying $10,000 or $5,000 for women to join these things. I think certain very lucky companies are, but I think there should be community for women day in and day out, regardless if you have like a big fat paycheck or your company believes in women's groups or you don't. And so I think there needs to be more for women where there's resources and support available as you need and want them, but you're not expected to pay for them.
Yeah, I agree.
So funny.
Yeah.
That's
We
cool.
we could talk offline about all this stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. That's cool though. But so yeah, so that's what we're doing. It's called Mule Media. You can find us, you can find us on our socials. We have a website. We are so happy for anyone to be a part of this. I'm so happy for anyone to be a part of Work Like a Girl. The great thing about Work Like a Girl is we have thousands of women who are part of it who are making it their own. There's a walk in Buffalo this morning with a bunch of women who work in Buffalo, New York. We have an event in LA tonight for a bunch of women who work in the entertainment industry. So there's stuff happening and it's
Yeah.
kind of crowdsourced.
I think you're nailing it because even from what we see, like the physicality, but also when you look at like post-COVID, all the events went away, but then now
Yep.
there's like another
Yes.
I get that people are working alone, but there's a massive loneliness
Yep.
epidemic. And I
Yep.
think it's all those things, and everyone wants the physical and
Yep.
and then there's AI layered into all that.
Totally.
So yeah.
Yeah, I see the same thing. I think that, well, look, like 50% of all content on TikTok is AI. So just to give you a sense of like why you don't feel good when you're doom scrolling, like there's a reason people don't feel good. The second is the more AI content there is, and the more time we spend with AI, the less meaning there's a lack of meaning. Like that's why I like a community company because I'm like communities have meaning. Like they're flawed and they're interesting and they're not predictable and they're not perfect and meaning is going to become in really short supply. And then to your point, I totally agree with you, which is that like people are lonely, they're anxious.
Yeah.
There's a huge amount of depression, not just for women, but for men, for everyone. And so the more, people are turning to the church, people are turning to people they know and trust, or you see in the grocery store or in the elevator bank. And I think the more we can do to create content that exists in social media, but also manifests in a real way is really, really important.
Yeah, I agree. Well, we'll be watching this, but let's
Awesome.
go into the trenches of like Barstool Sports.
Yep.
So tell us, because you were the CEO, like you built it. And what was that like?
It was amazing. It was, I loved it. Barstool Sports was like the career love of my life. Like, so that's how I feel about it. I'm so proud of what we built in that company. It was wild. It was a lot. It was 24/7, 365 for, almost 9 years. So it was intense, but it was a really fearless company. I think that that's what made us so great is we didn't know any better. We didn't come with any preconceived notions about what this thing was supposed to be. There wasn't a roadmap, there wasn't an agenda. And because we were unafraid to try new things, we jumped into podcasting without really knowing about podcasting. We jumped into TikTok without really knowing about TikTok. And the greatest lesson I I have coming from Barstool is just how the more fearless you can be and the less worried you. I think women sometimes get worried about perfection, like you got to be perfect, you got to look good, and there's reasons for that. Like, but the more fearless and experimental you can be, the greatest.
So,
And, we grew that company from when I joined, I don't know, Barstool had like $3 million in revenue and 5 million uniques, and we had $300 million in revenue and 250 million uniques by the time I left. So we built something like really, really big.
but I have to ask because, with everything social, like
Mhm.
you can be bold but I think, at least for me, sometimes the fear is canceled. What if I do something and I get canceled? Like I'm terrified of that.
Yeah.
Right. So how do you balance that?
It's funny. So Dave has a book coming out. So Dave Portnoy, the founder of Barstool, which is called "You Can't Cancel Me," and which is I think a really kind of intrinsic value that he has, which is I think people are. I think what you're seeing right now is that there was this era of cancellation, right? There was a big era of cancellation and shaming, I think, of people, in women and men, mostly men, obviously, but I think you can't be afraid of canceling. I think you have to have good intentions, first of all. I think that's important. Two is I think we're almost in a post-cancellation world a little bit where you look at like political candidates, you look at the president, you look at people in business, like there's a little bit of like defiance that you're seeing and
And I
also
think people rush to the defense of the person being canceled now, where before
yes,
they didn't. It was like
they
a
didn't.
pile.
Yeah, and look, like in the Me Too time, there was like some really people got canceled for the right reasons. Like I was
Yeah.
like pro that. I'm like, you're a fucking dirtbag.
Great.
You
Yeah.
should be in that job. But it went a little far and it became a little bit much. And then it became this like police state of like, or social police state where people were afraid. I think so long as you understand what you're saying and who you're saying it, and you have good intention with it, and you're also smart about it. I think we saw this a lot at Barstool actually, which is the Barstool guys were very, very, very smart, are very, very, very smart, but they made it seem casual and dumb. And sometimes people would trip into saying dumb, egregious, kind of
Right.
extremist things. And that's just because they weren't thinking. They're not calculated or they're not considerate about what they have to say. So I think so long as you like have a little bit of frame of reference of like, what am I saying? Who is this going to piss off? And what do I care? I think is a good frame of reference on that.
Yeah. So let's go back a little bit to, you talk about the barstools of the podcast. Let's talk more about like the broader influencer, because I think I started in this space before anyone even knew what an influencer was. And I just see it transforming. What do you see with creators? Like, they are starting their own products, they have their own media brands. Like, how do you see creators shifting, growing?
Interesting. So I'm like you, which is I was thinking, I mean, Barstool is an influencer platform, but we didn't
Yeah,
call it that. Like we didn't think about the word influencer didn't
didn't
really
exist.
like. So I love creators. I think creators are incredible and so brave. And like my heart is like with like I love creators. I think young creators, old creators, weird creators, especially like amazing. I also think there's a lot that's like really, really derivative and uninteresting. And I think you saw a time where creators had the upper hand and could command a lot of money and, the terms they wanted. And then there became exponentially more creators and that leverage was lost. So I think it's harder to be a creator and break through now than it was in 2020 or 20, even 22, certainly 2016 when we started thinking about creators or creating. So I think, the things that I worry about for creators is one, like just having run a manufacturing business and several packaged goods business and consumer products businesses, like it's fucking hard. And like you got to really be considerate of like I think a lot of people will sell creators a big dream of like, oh, you're going to make so much money from this and it's going to be so great. It's going to be so big. When the reality is, it's like it is a slog to build a consumer brand and it is a slog to get people to buy product. And it's a mega slog when you have thousands, if not millions of other people doing the exact same thing. So I'm always a little bit wary of the consumer. I'm going to launch a consumer brand business. Now you see people, Alex Earl is a queen and, Alex Earl can build a very big business. The question for her will be, can she sustain it? You know what I mean? Like that's going to be the question. Same with, Alex Cooper, you look at Unwell, you look at the drink, like, is that sustaining? Is that working for Nestle? Is that working for her? So I think the build the business piece is really interesting, but it's like a very considered strategic move.
But yeah, but also like the Alex Earl is like the akin to the Jennifer Anistons in Hollywood. Like, and everyone else like is like nowhere near. Like,
100%.
and
So
that's what I think people don't like. They don't realize, like, yeah.
yeah, she's a unicorn. Like there's only one of those. You know what I mean? Or maybe two if you count Alex Cooper, but like there's not that many. I think media brands are awesome. I think that they're easier to build, they're less expensive to create. Building IP around yourself, I think that's like a great strategy. One of the things that was a big secret to our success at Barstool is the Barstool guys in particular were always co-starring in each other's shows. They were guesting, right? Like we were kind of nuclear for a long time, so we didn't have guests. We just had each other. Like, so Big Cat would go on Dave's show, Dave went on Big Cat's show, they went on KFC's show, like they swapped.
You see that that's the Mel Robbins strategy.
Exactly.
She's just putting it's the cross promotion, right? Yeah.
So the more you can do that, the better. And then if you can build IP that is beyond your name and beyond just one platform, then you're like in business.
So explain that to everyone.
So in my opinion, it's Dave Portnoy could have had Dave Portnoy, El Presidente. He could have just had that, but he built Barstool Sports, right? So he built a brand next to his brand. He was the epicenter and the heart of it, still is, but he built something bigger. And then that bigger thing built a lot of things and they built bigger things, et cetera. So it's generational. That's what I mean by IP. If you look at Pat McAfee, another sports person, Pat McAfee only has the Pat McAfee show. He hasn't built other brands that I'm aware of that are around him. So I think IP is interesting. Alex Cooper built Unwell, right? So like Unwell is a brand that sits above, around, and beyond Alex Cooper. So I think IP is interesting. And then the second piece is when you look at most creators, I always like use the analogy of like they're kind of like crabs where like you have one like really big arm and then you've got a little arm on the other side. And which is probably not a nice way to say it, but it's true, where they're really dominant in one platform, but they haven't transitioned, or one format to like short form video, but they haven't transitioned to long form or other platforms. And I think that's a really powerful thing to do, is to try to build audience, to try to understand the format, and to try to connect with your fans, not just in one place and in one medium, but in many.
Agreed. I see it with a lot of the influencers. There were so many on Instagram, and then those people don't really know TikTok, and they're not the same. And TikTok is a whole different beast, and it's not just the video, it's the sales aspect of it.
It's
so
all
sellers.
Yeah. Yeah. The internet's a two-way medium, which is, I also think that's the other thing people miss, is like, it's not just dropping the piece of content. It's the conversation that happens after the drop of the piece of content that's like really, really, really important. And I think a lot of people miss that. And so like, instead of spending time being like, I'm going to like, I was at this conference yesterday and it was like, I'm going to make a new product that doesn't have seed oil and blah, blah, blah. It was like, I'm like, they were talking about shit that I didn't even know was bad for you. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, that feels really niche. Like, why wouldn't you just learn TikTok or YouTube or start doing AMAs on Reddit? Like, that's a better use of your time than solving a seed oil and some type of supplement thing. So
the problem is that there's so many people saying how much money they're making on TikTok.
I know that's the issue, the ecosystem.
Because everyone like thinks they're gonna, it's like the same thing as an influencer, right? Like everyone thinks I'll become an influencer, I'm gonna be Alex Earl. But everyone thinks that it's just so easy to get on TikTok and make $30 million a month.
Yeah.
It's not. Yeah, agreed. Could we talk a little bit about Food 52? Obsessed. I was obsessed, and you went in and turned everything kind of around. Tell us a little bit about what that was like.
Yeah. So
like, how did that even, 1 minute it was like, I don't even know.
So we had sold Barstool Sports twice in 2023. We sold it to Penn Entertainment, and then that was kind of a disaster, and we bought it back for $1. And so I was sitting in August, September of 2023 saying like, I think I've just had the like best career year of my life, like sold and bought a company in the same year, top of my game, whatever. And I really felt, which maybe was stupid in hindsight, but I felt I didn't want to not be needed. I had like given so much of myself over the, almost a decade that I like to build things and I like to learn things and do things that scare me. And I didn't want to just be like not needed, I guess and I don't think
that, because I like to build things and do things that do not scare me, I think is what stops most people.
totally. I think it's
Stop
really good to
running.
be scared. And like, Food 52 is a great example. So, I left like arguably the best job in the internet, the best job in sports, certainly. The, I would argue the most influential, phenomenal, culturally relevant brand in our era, and the safety and the comfort of it. I loved those people. Like I loved them. And I left because I was like, I still want to learn and grow. I've spent almost a decade talking to 18 to 34-year-old men. Like, I'm good, I get it. I wanted to learn women and I wanted to learn manufacturing and I wanted to learn a commerce business in a way that I hadn't. And Food 52 shared the same investor as Barstool Sports. And they said, hey, the company's in a really tough spot. It needs a turnaround. Would you want to go in and do it? And I thought about it and I thought about it and thought about it, thought about it, thought about it. I had just written a book and I was like, sure, you know what? Like, I'll try it. Like, we'll see what we can do with it. And I didn't love it. Like, it was a really hard, almost 2 years. I think we made an incredible amount of change and an incredible amount of progress. But it also was a really good learning of like, sometimes there's companies that are just, it's too far gone to bring back. And the brand wasn't too far gone. The brand is amazing, remains amazing today. The community is amazing. But Food 52 had spent, over $200 million and was, $25 million in debt when I got there. They had three brands. There was no synergies. They had a huge manufacturing business that no one really understood. And there was a lot of fixed costs. There was a huge, lease. There were contracts that were not negotiable, non-cancelable. So there was a lot of calcification that couldn't move. Right. And I ended up selling the company by putting it through a restructuring, which was, super painful process, but also, a really good process. It was probably my most interesting part of my time there. It was so intense and so hard. But the long and short of it is like, I left the Food 52 experience and I was like, oh my God, like I was on the top of the world and now I'm in the bottom. But I think that's a bad way to look at things the more I think about it. Like just trying something new. Now I know so much more on top of what if I hadn't.
Who knows how to do what you did? Like you did it.
So, and I wouldn't have started Mule if I hadn't, I wouldn't have done any of this had I not done that. And so that's kind of does that make sense? That's kind of the Food 52 experience.
Ask you, like, with everything new and everything that you've learned, like, where do you want, how could we support you? There's brands that listen, there's creators that listen. Because I think that you're on a path that's just so amazing. And again, having as a female founder, as an entrepreneur, as someone who built it with no investment, like on my own, like there's nowhere to go, like no one helped. Yeah. And so how could we support?
Well, I'm so grateful. One is give me feedback, like join Work Like a Girl. Yeah. What's awesome. Like, tell me what sucks. Like, we're really entrepreneur. I'm very curious. I'm very entrepreneurial. And if there's ways, creators are looking to do something, you're looking to do something. How do we mash up these 2 things or 4 things or 6 things? Or I'm really grateful for that. I think following the people who I'm trying to help, like that's really helpful. And then I'm open to really any ideas at most any time.
Yeah, well, this has been so opening. I thank you for everything.
Tell
everyone where they could follow you, how to find you, and yeah.
Great. So you can find me mostly on Instagram. I'm at Erika, which is Erika. You can find me on LinkedIn. I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. You can find me on TikTok with Erika with an underscore after it. And you can find me on Slack in our Work Like a Girl community. And that's kind of it.
This is awesome. Thank you so,
Great.
so much.
Thank
And
you
wishing you
so
the
much.
best.